Good morning. At a recent meeting, I made the statement that the insect pressure on produce and melon crops in the Yuma area this fall was as heavy as I've seen it in many years. That comment was based largely on my observations both on and off the Yuma Ag Center, as well as from anecdotal reports from PCAs and growers. This claim is further supported by a quick analysis of both recent and historic data on pest abundance recorded from our research plots here in Yuma at the Ag Center and off-farm as well. First of all, whitefly adult numbers on fall melons and produce were extremely high this year. In fact, many of my untreated melon plots on the Yuma Ag Center wilted and died rapidly as a direct result of heavy adult and immature whitefly feeding. Furthermore, captures of whiteflies on yellow sticky traps placed near cantaloupe fields in the Welton, Tacna, Texas Hill areas were twice as high as they've been in the past 5 years. And COISDV virus incidence in cantaloupe fields in this area was also higher in 2012 than we've seen it in many years. Worm pressure, particularly beet armyworm and cabbage looper, was higher than I've seen it probably in the last 6 or 7 years. Populations began infesting plots in early September, and egg deposition and larval development remained steady through October. In fact, worm numbers were 3 times higher in 2012 than what we observed last fall. Additionally, and somewhat surprising, corn earworm was present in higher numbers than what I've seen over the past 4 or 5 years. Finally, our favorite new pest, bagrata bug infestations, were the highest I've seen at the Ag Center since this invasive stink bug first showed up in Yuma in 2009. They started out at what I would consider low to moderate populations in early September, but reached very high levels by mid-September, peaking by about early to mid-October. The numbers I observed here on the research farm were much higher than the populations that occurred last season, and actually slightly higher than what we saw in 2010. The infestation levels in our untreated broccoli plots this year remained at damaging levels throughout the whole month of October and into early November. In contrast, thrips population numbers have been low relative to what we normally see this time of the year, and aphids, whether they be winged adults or colonies on lettuce, we really haven't picked them up so far this year at really, really low levels. Not as many as we would normally expect to see by mid to late November. However, I'm not sure how all of this information translates to the potential pest pressure that we may see in January and February with these two pests, so I would suggest you just anticipate that they're going to show up as usual. I've been asked why the pest pressure was so relatively heavy this year, and I really don't know. Could the heavy monsoon moisture that we had in July and August have been an influence? Could what we perceive to be warmer temperatures in October have made a difference? It may or it may not have. It's hard to say, because insect abundance is dominated and dictated by many abiotic and biotic factors in our cropping system. And to be honest with you, it's nearly impossible to consider all of these factors when you're trying to draw a conclusion as to why we had the somewhat outbreak conditions that we had this year. Nonetheless, if you go to our website, you can see graphics of these trends that I discussed in terms of whitefly virus, lep larvae, and bagrata at a file called Pest Abundance on Desert Produce and Melon Crops in 2012. Remember, when in doubt, scout.